This particular review, or I guess discussion, whatever the fuck you want to call it, I don't even know where to start. This is definitely going to be spoiler heavy, but I guess I'll give my 1 minute spoiler free review of Chainsaw Man, which I have finally gotten around to watching. I have been putting it off forever. First of all, let me just say, I'm in. I'm locked in. I really love the show. I am excited that I'm caught up before season 2 will come out in 2027 in what is becoming a growing list of an all-time year for anime. It looks like 2027 is going to be fucking ridiculous. I think I mentioned that in my free run video. But if I were to give a 30-second or 1 minute spoiler-free review, I would not recommend this show to anybody that is just getting into the genre of anime, because you have to be a vet to watch this shit. Because I don't even know how to describe it, but I guess for lack of a better phrase, it can be off-putting, I guess. Not off-putting, it's just fucking insane. That's just the best way I could describe it. But as Daniel Craig's character in Knives Out says, it makes no damn sense, but it compels me though. And that's how I would describe Chainsaw Man. And it's difficult for me to talk about this show without spoilers, because this show is fucking nuts. And eventually, through this winding road, you're like, oh, this shit is sick. And that is the end of this spoiler-free review. Get out of this video if you don't want to be spoiled. If my 1 minute pitch somehow is getting you to watch this show, I am glad. Then get the fuck out, because I want to talk about this show. So I guess I would just start here, but Chainsaw Man Season 1 is 12 episodes, came out in 2022, and I hadn't gotten around to watching it until recently. I don't know why I put off watching Chainsaw Man for so long, but here we are. Start off episode 1, and I think the first thing that you notice about this show, or at least I noticed about this show, is that obviously the animation's beautiful, but the show kind of does a low-key good job at setting up the environment and the world that the characters are in. At first, you're like, okay, what are devils? Where are the devils coming from? What's the origin of their story? But sort of like in a Demon Slayer way, as the episodes go on, you kind of get what the devil's deal is and the way that they are enemies in relation to humans, but humans also use devils by forming contracts with them, which is sort of a metaphor that goes over your head a little bit until you're done watching an episode or you're done thinking about the season you just watched. And we start with the main character, Denji, who is a 16-year-old boy who is butt poor, living out in a shack out in the woods. And he's had this little devil dog named Pochita, which is a chainsaw devil. He's had it since he was a little boy. And of course, Denji's poor and he's doing hit jobs for the Yakuza and is trying to make money to pay off a debt that was left by his father, who killed himself. It's a very tragic, sad backstory. And episode 1, it already kicks off. Denji's fed to the zombie devil by the Yakuza. Denji dies, and he forms a contract with his longtime pet, who just simply wants Denji to explore his dreams, which is something he has talked about repeatedly growing up with this chainsaw dog. They dreamed about living a bigger and better life. They dreamed about being able to eat a piece of bread with butter and jam on it like a normal person does. All these normal, everyday life things that Denji just doesn't get to enjoy. And so the Yakuza obviously betrays him, gets fed to a zombie devil, and of course Pochita decides to fuse with Denji's body, and in exchange he wants Denji to live out his life and show the dream that he had talked about so much with Pochita. And this is how you get Chainsaw Man. A human hybrid devil who can turn into a literal chainsaw, and then he gets recruited by devil hunters. Humans that have been battling devils for a long time. Devils appear to be public in the show. People know about them. The general public knows about them. But the humans that fight them off are devil hunters. They protect humanity, protect citizens. And from there, it just kicks off what is one of the more insane shows that I have ever watched. There's a lot of lewdness in this show, I would say. But once you get past all that, because it is very distracting at first, and I have to say, I really didn't lock into this show until about episode 8. Not that the first 7 episodes weren't good, did not have its moments or whatever. They were actually quite good and did have some very memorable moments. I wouldn't say good or bad, just very memorable. And if you watch this show, you know what I'm talking about. But it wasn't until episode 8 where I'm just like, oh, so this is how this show's gonna go. I guess I'm fucking locked in. And through the first 7 episodes, I'm watching, we're getting introduced to new characters like Makima, who is one of the more interesting characters in the show. She is the leader, or she's one of the leaders of Division 4, which is a separate division of devil hunters living in what I think is Tokyo. I'm not sure about the setting. I forgot which city they are in. But there's a lot of blackmail. There's a lot of Denji trying to adjust to life as someone who was neglected a lot as a young kid, didn't have much human interaction. And you see that manifest in ways that on the surface with this show appears to be very overbearing, crude lewdness. But when you think about his character and his background, you kind of get, like, for example, one of the early motivations in this show for Denji joining the Devil Hunters, because he is sort of blackmailed into joining the Devil Hunters because he is now a hybrid human devil, which is apparently rare. His motivation is to get with Makima. And his motivation sometimes will be to touch boobs. And his motivation is very teenage boy, 16-year-old brain. And it is very off-putting. But after you watch this season and you rewatch some episodes and you listen to people talk about this show, you kind of realize, okay, you think about his character, it kind of makes sense. But I'm not going to lie, the first 5 episodes, I was texting one of my homies who watched this show. I was like, I'm not going to lie, the writing's probably good because I hate all these fucking characters so far. I even hated Power at first, who is a fiend, and a fiend is a devil that takes over the corpse of a dead human. Like I said, the show is fucking insane. But Fiend used to be the blood devil, and therefore she eats a lot of mammals like cows, bears, all that stuff. But she ends up finding kinship with this pet cat, this stray cat, and then that cat gets abducted by another devil, and she fools Denji into helping her, but she tried to sacrifice him to the bat devil, which took the cat. And I'm just like, do all these characters fucking suck? And then one of the characters that I actually liked from Jump Street was Aki, who on the surface appears to be this bad boy, cool, usual tropey anime type of character, but when you go into his backstory and you go into the role that he plays among the group, because of course Makima forms a team of crazy people with Denji, Power, and now Aki. You can see Aki plays this big brother role. He's a veteran. He's been a devil hunter for multiple years now. And then you see him use one of his contracted devil powers. He's contracted with the Fox Devil and a few other devils. And you see him use his ability for the first time, Kon. And a giant Fox Devil appears out of nowhere and just eats up one of the... It's really fucking crazy. I like the power system in this show, actually. It's very unique. How it works, I guess, is humans can obviously, like I mentioned, they set up contracts with certain devils, and there are all types of devils. And the crazy thing is, anything can be a devil in this show that has say there's a beer devil, and that devil's power is to just fucking flood the city with alcohol and get people drunk. There's say I'm just coming up with shit. There's like maybe a computer devil where he fires nothing but computer chips, digitizes people. It could be fucking anything, right? And you can kill these devils, capture them so you can set up contracts with them so you can take their powers, but there is a price when you're setting up a contract with these devils, like the Fox Devil, for example. You have to give up one of your body parts in order to have that devil's power. It's really fucking crazy. Unless you're Denji, of course, and you're just a hybrid that doesn't really have to sacrifice anything and you can regenerate and all that shit, as long as the devil's just willingly gives you his power without any consequences. Like, there are those type of hybrids too. It's all fucking wild. It's all fucking wild. And while this show starts off crazy, this season is very much setting up the characters, setting up the world that they live in, and then you get introduced to another set of new characters in the squad. There's Himeno, there's Kobani, who is very fucking annoying to start, ends up redeeming herself later, which I will get to. And then we finally get one of the main goals of this show, one of the main villains of this show, called the Gun Devil, which is a really powerful devil that I guess was formed in America. And that's the main guy of the show. Apparently he could kill millions of people in seconds. So it's like, oh shit, well, this guy seems to be the final boss. And so now they have a mission of collecting pieces of the Gun Devil, which is basically just metallic flesh that are shaped like bullets, and they're magnetized and go to the main body. So if you collect enough of them, you can easily locate the main body of the Gun Devil. And so through all of that, there's these crazy battles. Early in the show, it shows these crazy battles of different devils with different powers, like the Infinity Devil, how Denji's powers work, how Aki's powers work, how powerful Power is, funny enough. Power ends up actually becoming my favorite character in this show. She's just fucking hilarious in a lot of ways. And the voice acting is incredible in this. Let's start with the other stuff before I get to the episodes that really lock me in. The voice acting is incredible. The animation is fucking impeccable. MAPPA has been, to me, the studio of the 2020 decade when it comes to animation with anime. Just not even the action, just the fucking walking, the direction of the animation, the camera work, the animation of facial expressions so you could really tell what a character's feeling without any dialogue. The soundtrack, oh my god, it's incredible. By the way, I don't know how many animes have done this, but this is probably the first anime I have watched where every episode has a different end credit. Like, every single episode is a different one with different animation, a different soundtrack, and the OP is so good. I have never heard a bass line go so hard like the first 5 seconds of Kickback, which is what the song is called. By the way, full song is pretty fire too. The doot doo 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 doot 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 doot, that's like stuck in my head right now every single day. But the soundtrack's incredible. Everything about this show is incredible, and it sort of helps you not get through the first 7 episodes or so, because there's a lot of compelling stuff, even if the story you're still trying to piece it together, and the devil shit that you're still trying to piece together, and you're trying to see the redeeming qualities of every character that you mostly don't like so far in this show, and not hate in like a, I guess, yeah, hate in a way where it's like, God, these people blackmail each other all the time. Denji just wants nothing but boobs and all this other shit. And I'm just like, oh, this show is still compelling though, and I'm still going through these episodes. And then episode 8 happens. Oh, I guess before I really talk about episode 8, I should talk about episode 7, where a nigga literally swallowed puke. It's fucking wild, man. I can't do this video without talking about that famous scene, I guess. I had no idea about it. Somehow I never got spoiled on Chainsaw Man, so I had no idea it was coming. And I had to pause the episode. I had to like take 5 minutes. I had to reconcile with what the fuck I just saw with Himeno kissing Denji. and then puking in the nigga's mouth, and then the nigga swallowed it. I was like, what am I watching? And then episode 8 is a continuation from the last episode for at least the first half. And then we reach the halfway point and shit goes down and people are dying. People are getting shot in the head. People are getting capped by servants of the gun devil. Then there's the katana man who comes out of nowhere and Himino dies. I think his name is Akari. He was one of the people that showed up with Himino and Kabani, the only dude that showed up at that hotel with Denji, Power, Aki, Himino, and Kabani. He dies. The guy who looks like John from Attack on Titan dies. Like, people start dying, and then Makima, of course, gets capped, but I had a feeling she had some really weird powers, and she was able to come back. Then Himino dies, trying to save Aki, and we had already gotten thorough backstory on how they ended up becoming master and apprentice, and there was obviously a very close relationship there, and you're just sitting there like, wait, no, what the fuck? These characters, I was just starting to like them even though Himino puked in this nigga's mouth, and I'm just like, shit, I guess people actually really die in this show. And I guess it's sort of like Hunters and Hunter x Hunter. You never know when a hunter's going to go. There's sort of that rule with the hunter world out there. And it's sort of implied with devil hunters and devils that have these insane powers. And then in episode 9, the battle sort of continues. And this is where the most interesting character in the show to me, or at least the most mysterious one, Makima, shows why she is really, really mysterious, because she has these apparently god tier level powers where it's classified, and people that set up the rituals for her to use her powers have to be blindfolded because it's classified by the government, which is insane. And she ends up crushing people just like that. And I'm just like, who the fuck is this person? Because she is frightening. And then Kabani fucking redeems herself. She's actually a badass. I mean, obviously, if you watch anime long enough, you know the Zenitsu characters when you see them. The cowards that are actually real badasses when they're pushed to their limit. But she was just so extra and annoying early in the episodes. Actually, one of the scenes where I was really laughing, like out loud, gut laugh, was episode 4, where Kabani's explaining her backstory, why she joined the Devil Hunters, and it's actually really sad. But Power, of course, who doesn't give a fuck about humans or human emotion because she is a devil now turned fiend, just started bursting out laughing at her sad story, and I'm just like, oh my god, it was fucking funny. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe I'm an asshole too, but it was like, that was one of the, there are quite a few moments in this show where you will bust out loud laughing, but Kabani actually shows that she's a badass a little bit. And so then that inflection point in the show happens, and you get introduced to, well, not new characters, but characters that were shown a little bit earlier in the show, like Kishibe, who is apparently the strongest devil hunter but trains a lot of people, and he ends up training Denji in Power, and shit's crazy with that. And shit just becomes very, very awesome and interesting after that, especially when they go back and try to hunt down the Katana Man, tries to hunt down Saratari, who has the Snake Devil. And the action, the choreography, the entire show is just immaculate. Absolutely immaculate. Denji beats the Katana Man. And by the way, I forgot to mention this. Denji, I guess, in this show is a serial nut kicker. I guess when you grow up poor and stuff, you have to scrap and fight however you can. And so that was one of the ways Denji and Aki first got introduced to each other and had a contentious relationship, is that Denji was kicking Aki in the nuts repeatedly. And so when you beat Katana Man, Denji decides to have a nut kicking contest with Aki, which is a very nice full circle moment. And Aki's like, I don't want to do this. But then he thinks about how Katana Man was the cause of Himeno's death, and they just start kicking his nuts repeatedly. It's fucking wild. This show is absolutely wild. And once you get past all that, once you watch the show, you just start thinking about the characters when they first interacted with each other. Why do you do devil hunting? A lot of these devil hunters are in it for revenge and stuff like that. Denji's just in it so he could keep the good life, which turns out to be a pretty nice goal to have. And Denji explains, like, my goals might not be as serious as yours, but I'm just as serious about devil hunting because I don't want to fucking go back to being poor. It's like what Michael Irvin said about being a wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys and being afraid to take hits over the middle. And then he had to toughen up and be like, you either run that slant or we go back to the ghetto. And Denji does not want to go back. And so it ends up being this bonding moment where it's like, okay, you might not hate devils, but at least I know I can trust you. And you, by the way, this show also shows, much like, again, Hunter x Hunter, for example, you have to be a little bit crazy to be a hunter, which is sort of a theme here as well. So after season 1, I'm just like, okay, this was a pretty awesome watch. And then I watched the Chainsaw Man movie, finally. And let me say, I fucked up because I should have caught up in time for this movie coming out in theaters. I regret not watching this in theaters, but let me just say, the Chainsaw Man Reze arc, as someone who watched Demon Slayer in theaters and was blown away by it, even though I didn't think it was as good as Mugen Train, Chainsaw Man blew Demon Slayer out of the water. Absolutely blew it out of the water. I have never... Like, the animation was just so beautiful. The first 40 minutes of this movie, I wouldn't say it was a fake romance film because there was definitely some underlying romance involved, even though Reze and Denji ended up fighting each other in the end and stuff like that. Like I said, this is spoilers, so get out of here. I don't know why you're in this deep already, but get out of here if you haven't seen the movie. But the environment, the city, the interaction with the characters, all of that stuff, it was just so good. And then Mappa absolutely blows this movie out of the water with its animation. The animation was so crazy, especially the last hour of this movie where Reze is the bomb devil, obviously, and that takes a lot of animation firepower. She's also really powerful, so you have to fucking convey that on the screen as well. And the reason this movie was also so good was because, unlike Infinity Castle Part 1, we know there's a 3-part trilogy coming up, so you really didn't have a beginning, middle, and conclusion like you would with an anime that does an arc in the middle of its series, much like Demon Slayer Mugen Train 2, where there was a beginning, middle, and end. But there was just a beautiful beginning, middle, and end, and focused on this character Reze, who is very relatable to Denji in a lot of ways, but also obviously manipulating Denji. Like, Denji seems to be manipulated by some of the other characters because of his powers, and Reze is trying to go after Denji's heart to get the chainsaw power, which is another thing in this show that will probably be a theme throughout, is that enemies are trying to take Denji's heart. And then by the end, it turns out Reze actually does like Denji, even though she tried to kill him 5,000 times. And it's a movie where also Denji learns some more of his powers, and it just sets up for a really awesome series. It really does. I was blown away by the Chainsaw Man movie. It actually raised what I thought was probably, for me at least, it was a high B plus A tier type of watch. And to me, it's like going into S tier with how good this movie was. The movie to me almost single-handedly boosted this show's rating for me. Obviously because it's canon and it's part of the story and the source material and stuff like that. But I thought at first the show was starting off really good. It ended really fucking strong. And then Chainsaw Man, MAPPA, Sony produced this masterpiece of a movie that really elevated the show. And you're just sitting there and you're just like, this is fucking beautiful. The swimming scene, the slice of life stuff, the battles, just again, simply characters walking through the streets, the connections, the conversations people have throughout the movie, and then at the end you're connecting it back to those early conversations in the movie. It's just fucking incredible. It absolutely is. And now I am fully locked in. That movie to me was a 12 out of 10. Absolutely 12 out of 10. Maybe I could just go higher, like 15 out of 10. I was completely locked in. And by the way, that movie was like an hour and 30 minutes. Demon Slayer was literally like 2.5 hours. And I was locked in for those 2.5 hours. But to me, like, Reze just did a lot more in a lot less time. And obviously, where they're at in their story compared to where Demon Slayer is at, where they're basically ending the series with this 3-part trilogy, they did a lot with more because it was a beginning, middle, and end. But even outside of that, it's probably one of the best. I have to really think about it, but it's one of the best animated animes I've ever seen. From start to finish. From the non-action to the slice of life stuff to the incredible swimming pool scene at the school they go to and all that shit. It was awesome. I don't even know how long people have been locked in to hearing me ramble on and on about this. I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff. Like, you know, Aki getting powers of the future devil, not having that long to live. Other fiends that got introduced like fucking Beam. There's an angel devil, which is also fucking crazy. There's a spider devil, of course. Like, it's all just zany. Like, I can see, like, I know the author of Dan used to work on the Chainsaw Man staff, and he branched out to do his own thing. And I know the Dan author studied like 100 manga and shit like that. But I can see where some of the zaniness, even though it's a little bit milder from Dan, comes from Chainsaw Man. Because Chainsaw Man is fucking nuts. It is absolutely zany. But it is also fucking awesome.